Hey everyone, welcome here. I am so excited that you're watching this video right now. I'm really excited for the content that I'll get to share with all of you. I think it's going to help a lot of you so much. I'm also a little nervous because this is the first video I put together like this, but hey, we're going to start somewhere. So today we're going to walk through 6 different methods that young adults and high school students use to attempt to find their unique purpose. And there are a few things that you can expect to get out of this video. Number 1, you're going to understand which of these 6 methods you are using. Number 2, you're also going to realize why the method you are using might not be the most effective. And at the end of the video, I'll be giving you a few things that you can start doing today that will help you answer the question, what is my unique purpose? Now, one last thing before we jump in. Throughout the video, if you notice me looking down at all, it's because I'm looking at my notes. I just wanted to let you know that's where I'm looking, just so you weren't wondering. So with that, let's dive in. Method number 1, I'm going to call the hopeful explorer. So who is the hopeful explorer? This is the person who pursues what they think they should without actually really being confident of the destination in mind. And so I think the most common example of this is somebody who goes to university, maybe they go for 4 years, and they get their degree, and then at the end of their degree, they realize that, shoot, it just wasn't for them, or the job that they thought they were going for really just isn't for them. And for me, a personal example is when I was managing at a small business here in town, I went and I got a business certificate. Now, originally, I thought that I wanted to move up in the business world through the franchise that I was working at. The only issue was, though, I didn't really research what the jobs would look like. I never took the time to be honest with myself about whether I was passionate about that line of work, and I didn't look into whether or not the business certificate would really be enough to help me get the job I wanted. So I wasn't aware. I said that I was going for something, but I wasn't actually aware if that was actually something I wanted to pursue. Now, I don't think that this was a total waste of time, energy, or money. I did learn lots about myself, but I do think that there would have been other ways that I could have saved myself that time and effort and money that I put into those courses. And so that's kind of a bit of an example of how the hopeful explorer thinks, is they think, I don't want to waste time, so I better get going in whichever direction I think is right. And what they might do is they might leave high school and head straight into university, which at times it can be amazing. However, rather than landing a career or a job with what they've learned, they realize at the end of their studies that it just wasn't for them. Or they may drop out before they complete their degree, or they might be someone who is really good at a specific trade. So this would be somebody who isn't going to university, they're in the trade department instead. And so they begin their career, and after a few years, they realize that it's just not for them. And so the main issue with this is that the destination in mind wasn't clear, or they weren't actually sure where they wanted to go in the first place. Because rather than pausing to think and discover where they wanted to go, the hopeful explorer kind of puts all their eggs in one basket and sets out on a journey that takes a lot of time or money or effort. And eventually they realize that they set off on the wrong course and they actually have to go all the way back to where they started. Now, I think we can kind of all see why this is a problem. You just wasted lots of time, 4 years of your life if you go for a university degree, lots of money. And then the third one is also effort. That's a lot of effort you have to put into getting that university degree, right? And so it's really important that we know why we're doing something before we go and do it. And so the fix to this method is really you want to get to know your purpose first before beginning your long-term plan. And if I were you, if I were just about to start going to university, I'd really want to take some time just to pause, just take some time and figure out, okay, why am I doing this? Is this job actually something that I want to do for the long term? Am I actually going to get my investment back that I'm putting into school, or am I just doing it because I don't know what else to do? So get to know your purpose before beginning your long-term plan. Method number 2. So method number 2 is the idealistic dreamer. So this is the person who has a dream and pursues it, but who isn't in touch with the reality of what it takes to make their dream happen. And so what they're thinking is, I have a dream, so it should be created now. And what this can really practically look like is this could, for example, so somebody wants to start a blogging business. And so they're a really good writer, they're really creative. People have told them, wow, you're a great writer. They've put out things in the past and they've gotten lots of feedback and people have really enjoyed reading what they're writing. And so they're like, oh man, I'm going to quit my job. I'm just going to write all the time and I'm just going to post 1, 2, 3 times a day. Now, the issue with that is that it's a blogging business that they're going after, right? If they're quitting their job, then they need to be finding a ways to make income. But if they're just thinking that they're going to be writing the whole time, then they're actually not doing the business side of things. And they actually really have to focus on both, right? Like the writing has to be good and the business has to be good. And so these people, they might have amazing intentions to make their dream a reality, but they really struggle to find the results they're looking for, because their dream is, it's all in their head, right? Like it's a really good dream. It's awesome. I'm not making fun of, but it's, when it's all in your head, you actually have to figure out what actually works. And so the big issue there again is they know their dream, but they're out of touch with what actually works. They may not have the life experience, the self-awareness, or the skills yet that they need to turn their dream into a reality. And this is a problem simply because once they launch their dream, once they go after it, it's just not going to work, which is really, really too bad. And so the fix for that is you really need to get in touch with your purpose and get to know what works. It's awesome you have a dream. That's so great. But you have to make sure that you get to know what works as well. So method number 3 is the uncertain seeker. And this one I'm a little bit nervous about sharing just because I think it's really common in our culture, and I don't think people want to hear me tell them that it's actually not a good idea for them. And so what this is or who this person is this is the person who hops from experience to experience as they search for fulfillment and for meaning. So they're looking for their purpose, and they just kind of hop from place to place to place, and they never take time to settle and really plant roots in. And what they're thinking is they're thinking, what's the next opportunity? What's the next experience? And maybe that one will be the right one for me. Now, what this could look like is maybe they're working at a job, they work at it a couple months, and then they leave, and they go find another job, work a couple months, and then they leave, and so on and so forth. And this could be done with like jobs, this could be done with trips, hobbies, friend groups. There's a whole bunch of different ways that this could play out. But they're always looking for their worth in the moment, and they seek instant gratification. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the issue with this is they never give themselves time to really settle and slow down to find their purpose. And so they're always moving, they're always on the go, and they're kind of doing like a trial and error method, right? They kind of like pop from one spot to one spot to one spot, which, I don't know, maybe in the short term it feels good, but in the long term, like they're never moving towards their purpose, right? And so they don't, they don't find their purpose. Others stop trusting them because maybe hop from friend group to friend group, they can't actually develop relationships where people can actually trust them. And then the third thing that's the issue with that, so number 1, they can't find their purpose that way. Number 2, people won't trust them. And number 3 is it also doesn't give them the opportunity to develop good character. And if you really want to step into your purpose, you have to develop your character. Because without good character, you can't build good relationships and people can't trust you. And those are both essential for stepping into your purpose. And so the fix for this method is you need to determine your long-term purpose before making a short-term change. That's so, so crucial. Figure out where you're going in the long term, and that'll actually help you set up those short-term changes. You'll actually have a pathway to get to your long-term goal. So that's method number 3. So method number 4 is the dismissive go-getter. And so one word that I think I can use to kind of help bring understanding to what this type is midlife crisis. And I guess that was 2 words, or 3 if we don't count the hyphen. So it's something we've all heard of before. But the crazy thing is now that according to one article I read, about 86% of millennials will have a quarter life crisis. That's crazy. And these crises are all about not being satisfied with life. Midlife crises are about looking back and realizing you didn't do what you wish you'd done. Quarter life crises are all about looking forward and realizing you don't actually have a direction, or you don't know why you're going the direction you're going. So both cases are actually solved through knowing your purpose and really understanding why you were doing what you were doing, to ensure that you're satisfied with your life. So who is the dismissive go-getter? So this is the person who has their life planned out, but they dismiss, or they're not aware of the desires that they have inside. And so how they think is, I can and I will be successful, and let's just go. So I know I can be successful, and I'm just going to go and do that. So they're all about practicality. They may or may not realize that they actually have desires beyond their chosen career path. And so what they do is they know what they're going to do. They know how to get there. They know, or everything in their life points to the proper direction. They have a handle on pretty much everything life can throw at them. And after going to the workforce, they succeed, and they succeed really, really quickly. However, the whole time they've actually dismissed what they're feeling and what their heart is telling them, in a sense, because all the focus is on what's practical. And I think that can be really good. I think that's awesome that they're so focused on the practical, and they're really good at figuring out what works. But one day they might actually wake up realizing that so much time has passed and that there are things that they've always wanted to accomplish and they haven't even started yet. And so the main issue with using this method is, though they're in touch with what actually works, they've dismissed any feelings about wanting purpose beyond just their practical day-to-day life. They listen to their heads, but they don't actually give their heart a chance to speak. And so why is this an issue? So it's really hard, like midlife and quarter life crises, they can bring like things like depression and stuff like that. And even though it's a really good time of growth, potentially going through midlife or quarter life crisis, it's a period of very fast growth, which is painful. And that also means that if you've waited to your midlife crisis, that means there's been a lot of time that's been wasted in your past where you haven't actually been able to fulfill what you really wanted to fulfill. So the fix for all this is begin figuring out your purpose now, so you don't have lots of pain or regret later. So it's really about focusing on the now and figuring out, okay, what's going on inside here now, so you don't have lots of pain or regret later. All right, so that's method number 4. Method number 5 is the patient observer. And so the patient observer is somebody who is very steady in what they pursue, and they're very intentional about how they do it. In their brains, they're kind of thinking, I don't want to invest a lot into something that won't benefit me, and I don't want to ignore what my head and what my heart are telling me. I need to listen to both. And so I think they're very, very healthy in what they do. So they're very intentional. So they don't invest heavily into something without first knowing why. They're seekers. They don't assume what they want to do. They actually go and they look for it. They're steady. They don't hop from place to place. They're aware. They don't dismiss what they're feeling. And then they're also resilient. They don't let struggle deter them. And I think the main issue that this method has is that they don't actually know what questions to ask themselves. Like, where do they start? They have all these questions, but what in the world do you do, right? And so it takes years for them to figure out their purpose because they don't have the roadmap with the right questions to ask. And that's the fix, is they need to determine their purpose by figuring out the right questions to ask. Method number 6 is the burdened soul. So this is the person who is in pain and they cope. Which we all do at some point, and all do in some way, shape, or form. I do it. I've noticed it, and I'm working hard not to cope and actually to deal with my issues rather than just shoving them aside. But yes, these people, or this method, it copes rather than working through the difficulties that they face. And so our thinking when we do this is, what would make me feel good right now? I'll do that. And so we avoid or we escape from our problems. We don't actually deal with them, and that's an issue. Because instead of wrestling through why we're feeling what we're feeling or dealing with our issues, we just cope. And I think this is a sensitive thing because I think there's varying degrees of this. On the serious side, like depression rates are through the roof. Like alcohol and drug abuse is through the roof. The average amount of even just screen time is through the roof. And so I think that there's a lot where we as a society, we are coping. There's lots of anxiety. There's lots of depression that we're not dealing with. So I think that's the heavier side. On the lighter side, I think we just try to avoid things. We're a very avoidant culture. We don't want to deal with what's going on. And so we find different ways to cope, whether that be eating, whether that be media, whether that be other addictions and stuff like that. And so so the fix is first, so I'm not a doctor, so I certainly can't I'm not going to walk you through like anxiety or depression or anything like that. And if you're struggling with those kind of things, please seek medical help. And then at the same time though, we all cope, and sometimes we're actually coping because we don't know our purpose. We feel empty, we feel purposeless. And so I think it's actually really healthy to look for our purpose and really try to discover it. And so those are the 6 methods. It's a really brief overview of the 6 different methods that I've seen young adults and high school students use to answer the question, what is my purpose? So at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I was going to be giving you guys a couple of different steps that you could take. I think these steps that I'll be giving you are going to help you a lot in determining your purpose. So on the screen right now, lists all 6 of the different methods that young adults and high school students use to help determine their purpose. And along with that, there's also the different fixes that go along with them. And so I want you guys to ask yourself, which method are you using? What one do you identify with? And based on that, what is a step that you need to start taking to help you more effectively determine your purpose? So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is really simple. I just want you to message me. So you can pause the video right now or right after this. I want you to message me your answer to step number 1. Let me know which method stuck out to you, because I really want to continue helping you figure this out. I want to walk with you and really help you figure out your purpose and figure out what you should do with your life. There's a lot of really big questions that we as young adults and high school students face, and so I'd love to be able to help you figure that out. So if there is more than one method, you can also totally let me know with that as well. But really quickly, send me a message, which method stuck out to you. That's it for today. That screen that was just popped up will pop up in just a moment again. You can take a quick screenshot of that. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks so much for allowing me to share this with you. I hope you guys have an awesome day.